The Stoics mastered the art of control over their emotions, their actions, and most importantly, the perceptions of those around them. If you want to disarm a woman's ego and turn the tables in any interaction, you'll need strategy, restraint, and the confidence to act without seeking approval. This episode dives into 7 powerful, proven techniques to instantly challenge her ego and shift the dynamic in your favor. Stick around to the end for the most unexpected yet effective way to dismantle her sense of control. If you enjoy this content, hit the like button, subscribe for more insights, and share your experiences in the comments. Let's get straight into it. Chapter 1. Never validate her. Validation serves as the lifeblood of a woman's ego. Compliments, attention, and acknowledgement act as constant fuel, bolstering her sense of self-importance and reinforcing her perception of control in interactions. Women are often accustomed to receiving this validation effortlessly, and it becomes a cornerstone of how they navigate relationships. By withholding validation, you disrupt this dynamic and force her to question her standing with you, creating a subtle but significant power shift in your favor. When you refrain from validating her appearance, intelligence, or accomplishments, it triggers a psychological reaction. Rather than losing interest, she begins to seek your approval more intensely. This shift places you firmly in control, flipping the script and challenging her expectations. For instance, if she anticipates a compliment like, "You look amazing," offer a neutral yet respectful response such as, "You look ready for the day." It may seem small, but this measured detachment is incredibly powerful. It communicates that your attention is valuable and not given away lightly, making her work harder to earn it. This isn't about withholding kindness or being rude, it's about maintaining emotional discipline and protecting your sense of self. Women often test men through subtle cues and behaviors to gauge how easily they can influence them. By refusing to validate her in predictable ways, you demonstrate that you are not easily swayed or controlled by external factors. This resilience makes you more intriguing and commands her respect. Psychologically, people value what they perceive as scarce or challenging to obtain. When you don't immediately validate her, your approval becomes more meaningful. This scarcity creates intrigue and compels her to invest more effort into understanding you and earning your attention. Unlike others who freely offer compliments, you stand out as someone who operates on a higher level of self-assurance. This distinctiveness naturally elevates your status in her eyes. The Stoic philosophy provides a valuable framework for this approach. Stoics teach the importance of remaining indifferent to external flattery and focusing instead on inner worth. By embodying this mindset, you challenge her reliance on external validation and subtly encourage her to evaluate her own sense of self. Her ego, accustomed to thriving on consistent affirmation, encounters a void when you withhold it. This void drives her to seek your approval with greater intensity, not out of manipulation, but because your restraint highlights your emotional strength. It's crucial to emphasize that this strategy isn't about disrespect or emotional gains. It's about ensuring that you remain unaffected by her attempts to dominate the interaction or control the narrative. By maintaining this balance, you create a dynamic rooted in mutual respect and understanding. You're not chasing her validation or allowing her to dictate your sense of self-worth. Instead, you're setting the terms of the relationship in a way that protects your integrity and keeps you in control. Ultimately, withholding validation is not about being unkind, but about mastering the art of measured detachment. By doing so, you position yourself as a man who values his attention and approval, making it clear that they are earned, not freely given. This approach not only strengthens your own sense of self-worth, but also deepens her respect and interest, as she realizes that you are someone who operates with purpose and emotional discipline. Over time, this dynamic fosters a relationship based on mutual admiration and genuine connection rather than superficial validation. Chapter 2. Never chase her validation. The moment you begin seeking her approval, you unknowingly hand over your power. Women are highly skilled at wielding validation as a tool, using it to inflate their egos, manipulate emotions, and shape the narrative of a relationship. The key to breaking free from this dynamic lies in your refusal to chase her validation. By doing so, you communicate self-sufficiency and confidence, two powerful traits that not only defy her expectations, but also disrupt any subconscious strategies she might employ to control the interaction. Consider this: if she asks, "Do you like my dress?" instead of rushing to offer excessive praise, respond calmly and neutrally with, "It's fine." This subtle detachment often unsettles her because it denies her the satisfaction of control or the validation she might expect. It's not about being dismissive, cold, or rude. It's about maintaining composure and showing that your sense of self-worth isn't tied to her approval. This level of emotional independence not only sets you apart but also forces her to question the influence she thought she had over you. Psychologically, people tend to place greater value on what feels elusive or challenging to obtain. When you stop chasing her validation, you embody that challenge, a mysterious enigma she can't easily unravel. This reversal of typical validation dynamics compels her to work harder to earn your attention and understanding. Instead of you seeking her approval, she becomes the one striving to gain yours. Her intrigue grows not because you're playing games, but because your unshakable confidence naturally captivates her. For example, imagine a scenario where she seeks affirmation about her intelligence or accomplishments. Instead of enthusiastically agreeing, you could respond with a thoughtful, "That's interesting," or a subtle, "I see where you're coming from." These understated reactions convey that you're not overly impressed, yet still attentive. This balanced approach keeps her engaged while preserving your power within the dynamic. The Stoics, renowned for their mastery of emotional resilience, believed deeply in the principle of detachment, the art of remaining unaffected by external influences. They taught that true strength comes from within, not from others' opinions or judgments. By adopting this mindset, you can revolutionize your interactions with women. When you remain unbothered by her attempts to elicit validation, it sends a powerful, almost magnetic message: you're a man rooted in his own values, untethered from the need for external approval. Instead of chasing her validation, redirect that energy into your own journey. Pursue your passions, sharpen your skills, and embrace your commitment to personal growth. Let your actions and accomplishments speak for themselves, and allow your steady confidence to set the tone for how others perceive you. This approach doesn't just make you more attractive, it builds genuine respect. When she sees that your life doesn't revolve around her approval, she'll come to realize that your attention is a privilege, not an entitlement. Over time, her ego will naturally adapt to your unshakable demeanor. She'll recognize that you're not the kind of man who can be easily influenced or controlled by validation games. This shift in the dynamic isn't about exerting control over her, it's about maintaining control over yourself. By staying true to your values and priorities, you create a relationship dynamic rooted in mutual respect rather than superficial flattery. Ultimately, when you stop chasing her validation, you gain the upper hand, not through manipulation or coercion, but through your unwavering commitment to self-respect and inner strength. In this dynamic, your presence becomes a source of intrigue and admiration, and your attention becomes a reward she strives to earn. This balance not only ensures that you remain in control, but also fosters a deeper, more meaningful connection based on authenticity and mutual appreciation. See Chapter 3, Don't Get Emotional or Argue. Arguments are often an emotional battlefield, and engaging in them is a surefire way to lose your composure and hand over control. When you let emotions dictate your response, you unwittingly give her the upper hand. Women frequently use emotional reactions, either their own or eliciting yours, as a way to assert dominance or test the balance of power in a conversation or relationship. The most effective way to dismantle this tactic is by mastering emotional stoicism. Picture this scenario: she makes a biting comment or deliberately tries to provoke a reaction. Most men would either lash out defensively or attempt to argue their way out of the situation. This approach not only plays directly into her hands, but also validates her behavior. Instead, respond with calm detachment. Say something neutral like, "You're entitled to your opinion," or "That's an interesting perspective." These statements are disarming because they neither agree nor escalate the situation. They leave her with no emotional leverage to continue her provocation. The Stoics were masters of emotional regulation, understanding that anger, frustration, or any intense reaction is a form of surrender to external forces. By maintaining your composure, you not only protect your inner peace, but also communicate a sense of unshakable strength. In relationships, this form of emotional discipline challenges her ego. She expects engagement, perhaps even an outburst, but when you deny her that, she's left questioning her influence over you. From a psychological perspective, emotional detachment in tense situations rewires the dynamic of control. People are naturally drawn to and respect those who remain calm under pressure. This is especially true in romantic relationships, where emotional volatility can easily erode respect. By staying composed, you signal that you are not easily swayed or manipulated, reinforcing your position as a leader in the relationship. Another benefit of refusing to argue or get emotional is the clarity it provides. Arguments often cloud judgment and escalate minor disagreements into major conflicts. By not engaging, you maintain perspective and avoid unnecessary drama. Instead of focusing on winning the argument, you prioritize maintaining balance and control, qualities that are inherently attractive and command respect. It's also important to understand the long-term effects of this approach. When a woman realizes that her emotional tactics don't affect you, she's forced to adapt. Over time, this reduces her inclination to use manipulation or provoke unnecessary conflicts. The relationship becomes less about power struggles and more about mutual respect and understanding. This shift not only challenges her ego, but also fosters a healthier, more balanced dynamic. To implement this effectively, it's crucial to prepare yourself mentally. Emotional stoicism isn't about suppressing your feelings, but rather managing them constructively. When you feel anger or frustration bubbling up, take a deep breath and remind yourself of the bigger picture. The goal isn't to win the moment, but to maintain control over yourself and the situation. Visualize the Stoic principle of the dichotomy of control, focusing only on what you can influence, your own actions and responses. For example, if she accuses you of not caring or being distant, resist the urge to defend yourself emotionally. A simple, composed response like, "I understand why you might feel that way," acknowledges her perspective without conceding your position. This response also shifts the responsibility of elaboration back to her, effectively neutralizing the confrontation. It's worth noting that refusing to argue or get emotional doesn't mean being cold or dismissive. Instead, it's about choosing your battles wisely and ensuring that your energy is spent on meaningful conversations rather than petty disputes. By not engaging in arguments, you signal that you value your peace of mind and the relationship's stability more than temporary emotional victories. Women are naturally drawn to men who exhibit emotional maturity. When you demonstrate an ability to stay calm and composed, you set yourself apart from the majority of men who are quick to react. This composure not only challenges her ego, but also instills a sense of security. She begins to see you as someone who can handle challenges with grace, making you more attractive and respected in her eyes. Another powerful aspect of this approach is its unpredictability. Women often test men's boundaries by provoking emotional responses. When you don't react as expected, you disrupt her usual patterns. This unpredictability keeps her intrigued and forces her to approach you differently. It also reinforces the idea that you are in control of your emotions and, by extension, the dynamic of the relationship. Consider how this principle aligns with the broader Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. In relationships, this translates to focusing on how you respond rather than attempting to control the other person's behavior. When you embody this mindset, you not only challenge her ego, but also elevate your own sense of self-worth. Lastly, refusing to argue or get emotional sets a standard for how conflicts are handled in the relationship. It demonstrates that you are someone who prioritizes solutions over drama, maturity over impulsivity. This standard encourages her to meet you at the same level, fostering a more respectful and harmonious connection. In summary, arguments are a trap designed to test your composure and control. By refusing to engage emotionally, you maintain the upper hand and challenge her ego in a way that few men do. This approach not only disrupts her usual tactics, but also strengthens your position as a calm, confident, and emotionally secure partner. Over time, this composure becomes a defining trait of your character, one that commands respect and admiration both from her and others in your life. Chapter 4. Never ask for commitment. Asking for commitment often shifts the power dynamic in a relationship, placing the decision firmly in her hands. By doing so, you inadvertently elevate her sense of control while diminishing your own perceived value. Instead, the more strategic approach is to remain indifferent to the idea of exclusivity and allow her to bring it up. This subtle but impactful tactic communicates a powerful message: your worth and happiness are not dependent on her approval or validation. Women frequently associate a man's eagerness for commitment with a form of emotional dependence. When you don't broach the topic, you challenge this assumption. Instead of positioning yourself as someone seeking her approval, you project self-assurance and independence. This approach forces her to reconsider her role in the relationship. She begins to wonder about your intentions and whether she needs to put in more effort to secure your attention. This element of unpredictability is an effective way to keep her intrigued and engaged. From a psychological perspective, humans tend to value things that aren't easily attainable. When you refrain from asking for commitment, you create a sense of scarcity. She starts to perceive your time and affection as limited resources, making them more desirable. This tactic taps into a fundamental principle of human behavior: the more someone has to work for something, the more they value it. By not pressing for exclusivity, you place the onus on her to prove her worth to you, effectively flipping the traditional dynamic. The Stoics emphasized the importance of self-reliance and detachment. They believed that true contentment comes from within, not from external validation or relationships. This principle applies perfectly to this scenario. When you embody self-reliance, you demonstrate that your emotional well-being isn't tethered to her decisions. This mindset not only keeps the power dynamic balanced, but often tilts it in your favor. Your indifference to commitment sends a clear message: you're content with or without it, and you won't compromise your principles for the sake of pleasing someone else. It's important to understand that this approach doesn't mean being aloof or disinterested. Instead, it's about maintaining a sense of balance and not allowing the relationship to revolve entirely around her desires or expectations. For instance, when she hints at exclusivity, respond with calm curiosity rather than enthusiasm. You might say something like, "I think it's important to let things evolve naturally," or "I'm enjoying how things are right now." These responses convey thoughtfulness and confidence while subtly putting the ball back in her court. Moreover, refraining from asking for commitment also protects you from rushing into a dynamic that may not align with your long-term goals. Too often, men feel pressure to define relationships prematurely, either due to societal expectations or fear of losing the woman's interest. By avoiding this trap, you allow the relationship to unfold organically, giving both parties the opportunity to assess compatibility without unnecessary pressure. This approach aligns with Stoic philosophy, which advocates for patience and intentionality in all aspects of life. From her perspective, your reluctance to seek commitment might initially come across as confusing or even frustrating. However, as time goes on, it becomes a point of intrigue. She starts to wonder why you're not behaving like other men who rush to secure exclusivity. This curiosity compels her to dig deeper, making her invest more effort into understanding and winning you over. In doing so, she subconsciously shifts from evaluating you to proving her worth to you, effectively challenging her ego in a way she didn't anticipate. By allowing her to initiate the commitment conversation, you also gain a unique advantage: clarity. When she's the one to bring up exclusivity, it's a strong indicator of her investment in the relationship. This shift not only validates her interest, but also gives you the opportunity to decide whether this is the right dynamic for you. It's a proactive way of ensuring that you are not settling for a situation that doesn't meet your needs or values. Additionally, this strategy fosters mutual respect. By not pressuring her into a commitment, you demonstrate that you respect her autonomy and value her ability to make decisions on her own terms. This respect is often reciprocated, creating a healthier and more balanced foundation for the relationship. At the same time, your indifference subtly asserts your own boundaries, signaling that you're not someone who can be easily swayed or controlled. It's also worth noting that this approach can help you avoid common pitfalls associated with premature commitment. Many relationships falter because one party feels trapped or pressured into exclusivity before they're ready. By taking a step back and allowing her to lead the conversation, you minimize the risk of resentment or imbalance down the line. This patience and self-control reflect the Stoic ideal of measured action, choosing when and how to act in a way that aligns with your principles and goals. Ultimately, the decision not to ask for commitment isn't about playing games or manipulating her emotions. It's about prioritizing your self-respect and independence while fostering a dynamic that's built on mutual effort and investment. Commitment should never be an expectation you fulfill out of fear or obligation. It's a milestone that must be earned through trust, compatibility, and shared values. In the end, this approach not only challenges her ego, but also reinforces your own sense of worth and autonomy. By remaining indifferent to the idea of exclusivity, you position yourself as a man who is confident, self-reliant, and in control of his own destiny. This balance of independence and mutual respect creates a dynamic that's not only intriguing, but also deeply fulfilling, a testament to the timeless wisdom of the Stoics. Chapter 5. Don't be eager to have sex with her. For many women, physical intimacy is a tool they're accustomed to using to gain emotional influence or control over a relationship. When a man prioritizes sex, it places her in a position of power, reinforcing the dynamic that she's the one being pursued. However, when you show restraint and resist the urge to rush into bed, you fundamentally disrupt this expectation. This deliberate patience isn't about rejecting intimacy outright. It's about reframing the interaction on your terms and challenging her ego in a way she won't expect. By not appearing overly eager for sex, you communicate that your interest in her is deeper than the physical. This distinction can be profoundly unsettling for her, as it undermines the societal norm that places men as the relentless seekers of intimacy. She'll begin to question why you're different, why you're not behaving like others, and this creates a dynamic where she's the one striving to understand you. Suddenly, the power balance shifts, forcing her to reevaluate how she approaches the relationship. The Stoics taught that discipline is the foundation of all meaningful endeavors. In this context, discipline means resisting the immediate temptation of physical intimacy in favor of cultivating a deeper connection built on mutual respect and understanding. This restraint isn't just an exercise in self-control, it's a statement of your values. It shows that you're not willing to let fleeting moments dictate the direction of your relationship. You're prioritizing the long term, which is a quality that commands respect and admiration. Psychologically, this restraint introduces a sense of mystery. When you don't pursue sex with the same urgency that others might, you make her wonder about your true motivations. Is it because you value something more meaningful? Are you simply not impressed by her usual tactics? These unanswered questions compel her to engage with you on a deeper level as she tries to decipher what sets you apart. This process not only challenges her ego, but also creates a sense of intrigue that keeps her emotionally invested. It's important to note that showing restraint doesn't mean dismissing her advances or acting indifferent. It's about setting the pace in a way that aligns with your values and priorities. For example, rather than immediately agreeing to her physical cues, you might focus on building emotional or intellectual rapport first. Engage her in meaningful conversations, share experiences that deepen your bond, or explore activities that foster connection beyond the physical. This approach not only challenges her to step outside her comfort zone, but also demonstrates your ability to lead the relationship with confidence and intention. Additionally, this strategy reveals your self-worth. When you're not desperate for physical intimacy, you send a clear message: you're not someone who can be easily won over. This subtle but powerful statement forces her to recognize that your time, attention, and affection are valuable commodities, not things that can be casually earned or taken for granted. This recognition is crucial in maintaining balance and mutual respect in the relationship. From her perspective, your restraint may initially seem confusing or even frustrating, especially if she's used to men who are eager to pursue her physically. However, as she adjusts to this new dynamic, she'll likely find herself drawn to you even more. Your ability to resist immediate gratification signals a level of maturity and emotional intelligence that's rare in today's world. It challenges her ego by showing that she can't simply rely on her usual tactics to gain your affection. She'll need to work harder and engage with you on a deeper level. Furthermore, your patience in this area can help foster a healthier, more balanced connection. When physical intimacy is rushed, it often becomes the foundation of the relationship, overshadowing other aspects like trust, communication, and shared values. By delaying this step and focusing on building a strong emotional foundation first, you set the stage for a more fulfilling and enduring partnership. This approach also allows her to see you as someone who values quality over quantity, someone who isn't willing to compromise their standards for short-term pleasure. On a practical level, your restraint can also help you identify whether she's genuinely interested in you as a person or merely seeking validation through physical intimacy. A woman who values you for who you are will respect your decision to take things slow, while someone who's primarily interested in the chase or the conquest may lose interest when her usual tactics fail. This filtering process is invaluable in ensuring that your time and energy are invested in relationships that align with your goals and values. Ultimately, the act of not being overly eager for sex is about more than just self-control. It's a statement of self-respect and confidence. It challenges her ego by showing that you are not easily swayed or controlled, and it forces her to approach the relationship with greater intention and effort. By prioritizing long-term value over immediate gratification, you position yourself as a man who's in control of his own desires and destiny, a quality that's both rare and deeply compelling. In the end, your restraint will not only set you apart but also establish a dynamic where mutual respect and admiration take precedence over fleeting desires. This balance is the foundation of any meaningful relationship, and it's a lesson that aligns perfectly with the timeless wisdom of the Stoics. By Chapter 6, Dress nicely in public. Your appearance is more than just clothing, it's a direct reflection of how much you respect yourself. Dressing well signals confidence, competence, and self-assurance, qualities that inherently challenge a woman's ego. When you take pride in your presentation, you not only elevate your own sense of self-worth, but also subtly influence the dynamics of your interactions with others, particularly women. The way you present yourself has a profound psychological impact. When you're well-dressed and put together, you naturally draw attention. Whether it's the fit of your suit, the clean lines of a crisp shirt, or the effortless polish of your casual attire, your appearance sends a message: you're someone who values himself and knows his worth. This quiet confidence challenges her ego by subtly suggesting that you're not reliant on her validation. You're capable of standing out and commanding respect entirely on your own. Dressing well also shifts the focus onto you when you're in public. Imagine stepping into a room, turning heads with your sharp appearance, and exuding an air of mystery and magnetism. It's not just about catching the eye of strangers, it's about making her notice how others perceive you. This dynamic introduces an element of competition. She may begin to wonder whether she truly has your full attention or if other women might be vying for it as well. This uncertainty, while subtle, can create an internal conflict that forces her to reevaluate how much effort she's putting into keeping your interest. The Stoics understood the power of appearances, though they didn't view them as a form of vanity. Instead, they regarded them as tools for influence and control. When you dress well, you're exercising a form of self-discipline that aligns with Stoic principles. You're showing that you care enough to present your best self, not for the sake of others, but for your own sense of dignity and integrity. This display of self-respect is inherently attractive and disrupts any sense of complacency she might have about her place in your life. Moreover, dressing nicely isn't about adhering to societal standards of attractiveness. It's about expressing your individuality in a way that resonates with your personality and goals. Whether you prefer classic tailoring, modern streetwear, or something in between, the key is to ensure your clothing reflects who you are while projecting an image of competence and confidence. This authenticity amplifies your allure, making you someone who naturally commands attention and admiration. The psychological impact of a well-dressed man goes beyond just visual appeal. It creates an aura of competence and readiness, signaling to everyone around you, including her, that you're in control of your life. This can be particularly challenging to her ego because it positions you as someone who doesn't need her approval to thrive. Instead of seeking validation, you're showing that you're already at the top of your game, which makes her question what she must do to earn your attention. In public settings, your polished appearance can also shift the dynamic of your relationship. When you're the one garnering compliments or catching the eyes of others, it naturally forces her to step up her game. She might feel compelled to match your energy, striving to ensure she remains the most significant presence in your life. This isn't about creating insecurity, but about fostering a sense of mutual respect and effort. Even small details like a well-fitted blazer, clean shoes, or a carefully chosen accessory can make a world of difference. These elements signal that you pay attention to detail, a trait that extends beyond your wardrobe and into other areas of your life. Women pick up on these cues, understanding that a man who takes care of his appearance likely takes care of his goals, his responsibilities, and his relationships with the same level of dedication. At its core, dressing well is about more than just looking good. It's about embodying the qualities of self-discipline, confidence, and self-respect. These traits naturally challenge her ego because they position you as someone who's in control of his own narrative. You're not just reacting to the world around you, you're actively shaping how the world perceives you. Finally, a polished appearance forces her to recalibrate how she interacts with you. If she's used to having the upper hand in relationships, your confidence and self-assuredness will disrupt the dynamic. It's a quiet yet powerful way to assert your independence and remind her that you're not someone who can be easily swayed or controlled. By taking pride in your appearance, you set a standard that challenges her to rise to your level, fostering a relationship built on mutual respect and effort. In the end, dressing nicely isn't just about clothing, it's about what that clothing represents. It's a testament to your self-respect, your confidence, and your ability to command attention without saying a word. And when done right, it becomes a subtle but effective way to challenge her ego, keeping her intrigued and invested in the connection you share. Chapter 7. Never be too available. Availability is a double-edged sword. While being present may seem like a good way to show interest, overdoing it can backfire. When you're always at her beck and call, you risk diminishing your value in her eyes. people naturally undervalue what is easily accessible. To maintain control and keep her ego in check, you must master the art of limited availability. By setting boundaries and prioritizing your time, you send a powerful message: your life is rich and fulfilling, with or without her constant presence. This creates a sense of independence and self-respect that challenges her perception of control. The less available you are, the more she'll wonder what you're doing and who you're spending time with, a dynamic that shifts the balance of power in your favor. For example, when she texts you, don't always reply immediately. Instead, take your time and respond when it's convenient for you. A delayed reply might seem insignificant, but it introduces an element of mystery. What's keeping you so busy that you can't answer right away? This subtle question lingers in her mind, sparking curiosity and desire. The psychological principle of scarcity plays a major role here. When something is perceived as scarce, its value increases. Your attention and time are no exception. By making yourself less accessible, you elevate your worth and position yourself as someone who is competent and self-sufficient. In contrast, constant availability signals dependence, which can quickly erode her respect for you. The Stoics understood the importance of focusing on what you can control, and your time is one of your most valuable assets. They believed in living deliberately, ensuring that every action serves a purpose. By guarding your time fiercely, you embody this philosophy, demonstrating that you're in control of your own life. This not only boosts your confidence, but also makes you more attractive in her eyes. However, limited availability isn't about playing hard to get or being rude. It's about establishing a sense of balance and showing that your world doesn't revolve around her. When you prioritize your goals, hobbies, and relationships, you create a life that's worth being part of on your terms. Consider this scenario. Instead of dropping everything to meet her at the last minute, let her know you already have plans, even if those plans are simply spending time on your own. This subtle act communicates that your time is precious and you're not willing to compromise it for anyone. The result? She'll respect you more and value the moments you do share. Another way to reinforce your limited availability is by occasionally saying no. If she asks for a favor or wants to meet up and it doesn't align with your schedule, politely decline. Saying no not only sets boundaries, but also reinforces that you're not afraid to prioritize your own needs over hers. This act of self-respect is a direct challenge to her ego, as it forces her to acknowledge that you're not at her disposal. From a broader perspective, limited availability creates a dynamic where she's more invested in earning your time and attention. When she realizes that your attention isn't guaranteed, she'll put in more effort to maintain the connection. This shift in effort level subtly places you in a position of power, where she's the one working to keep the relationship alive. The key to mastering this approach lies in consistency and authenticity. If your limited availability feels forced or manipulative, it can come across as disingenuous. Instead, let it stem from a genuine commitment to your own priorities and well-being. The more you focus on building a fulfilling life for yourself, the more naturally this behavior will come. Ultimately, the goal isn't to play games or create unnecessary distance. It's about ensuring that your time and energy are respected. When you strike the right balance, you not only challenge her ego, but also create a foundation for a healthier, more balanced relationship. This subtle shift in how you manage your availability keeps her ego in check and reinforces your position of strength. By valuing your own time, you teach her to do the same, and in doing so, you establish yourself as someone who commands respect and admiration. Power in relationships lies in subtlety and restraint. By applying these Stoic-inspired strategies, you can dismantle her ego and shift the dynamic in your favor. Remember, the key is to act with confidence and self-respect, ensuring your actions come from a place of strength, not spite. If you found this episode insightful, like the video, subscribe for more content, and share your thoughts or stories in the comments. Let us know how these techniques have worked for you and what strategies you'd like us to explore next.